Hi everybody, this is Troy Noonan, TJ for short. Some of you know me as TJ with the Backpacktrader. I've had such an enormous response for the upcoming boot camp with my new Catapult ES strategy. I'm really excited. That will be on April 4th, a Saturday morning session. And there's plenty of time still between now and then. I wanted to do a walkthrough and show you some of these trades. We are living through historic times, as you know. The markets are melting down. It's easy to panic and get sucked into the way the world is reacting. I think it's really important to just keep your cool and realize that we have opportunities if we can just stay focused. And that's the whole point of this boot camp and focusing in on one session, one easy method to learn, one easy trade setup that you can prove that you will see works over and over again. You can get really good at it, do it the same way each and every day, basically the same times each and every day, etc., etc. So I thought I would walk through today's market. Now keep in mind this is a dynamic strategy and it will tune itself and adjust to market conditions. So needless to say, with the extreme volatility, the trades are larger than usual. But that, of course, can be handled easily with the micro contracts, and we'll look at that in a moment. So let's just look at what's happening right now at this time. So there are some mini sessions that I'm super excited about that I'm going to be teaching during the boot camp. And one of them starts at 1400, 2 p.m. Chicago time, which is where the Chicago Mercantile Exchange obviously is located, and that's where the ES trades from. So let's just look backwards. Clearly you can see this is a trade that triggered in. The little plus sign, that's your entry. You got targets below, you got your stop above, and you got a very simple strategy. These are not moving averages. I'll just answer that right away. This is a very powerful momentum indicator. And when the fast line crosses over the slow line, that is the thick line crosses over the dashed line, the bar will close and it will turn red, and that means we're looking to go down. And that's going to give us a setup. And the price pushed through and it hit the entry right here and it's trying to get to some targets. Now when you click on the bar, you get the entire trade here in the data window. Your stop, which is up here, your entry, which is a little plus sign, and your targets down below. Okay, that's the basics. And then you can see how much you can win, what your risk is, etc. There's also a special kind of target, this magenta line, this little dash here. You can see it already hit that. I'm not going to teach you the fine points of the strategy until the boot camp. I just want you to get a sense of what I'm going to talk about next in this video. All right, so you can see up here that the time is 2:25. So this trade is still going. You could see the bars are red. We don't know if it's going to win or lose. Let's look at what happened earlier in the session. You can see immediately to the left a nice winning trade. This is during a time, though, that normally is not the best time to trade. And for that reason, I'm not going to show you this trade because that's not inside of our trade plan. But let's go back now and look at the prior trade. This trade here is during a mini session that begins at 11 a.m. And it's a pretty nice mini session. And so you can see how it took a few bars, but then it ultimately triggered in. The stop well placed right across the top. The price pushed down, hit its target 1, its target 2, its target 3, all within these couple bars here. Kept going further, hit its target 4. And kept trailing down. And then finally stopped out right here. Now, you can trade this with a single position to any one of these targets. You can trade it with multiple positions. And you can trade this with the micro contract, which is 1/10 the size. So this is a rather large trade because of the extreme volatility. All right, to make it easier for you, I just marked up this chart and just to point out to you what kind of money we're talking here with a single contract to each one of these targets. You could see the dollar amounts. Now this is rather large. It did have a risk of 16 points. That's an $800 risk. And that's a risk that's probably too high for many of you. If you're using the formula that I teach, you want to make sure you're capitalized enough for this. However, you can divide all of this by 10 and place this exact same trade on the micro contract. So imagine, the micro contract. Well, first of all, the ES is $50 a point, right? So target 1 made 14.75 points. The risk is 16 points, right? But look at target 2, over 22 points, 30 points, 61 points on the trailer. These are big numbers, and obviously because the market is so volatile. But if you divide all that by 10, now you're starting to see the beauty of the micro contract, because that would be $5 a point. And maybe you could afford to trade 5 contracts, right? 5 contracts would be $25 a point instead of $50 a point. Then you're only risking $400, and you could scale out at each one of these 4 targets and trail all the way down. So these are the types of concepts that I'm going to be teaching at the boot camp. You can see this mini session here, the 11 a.m. mini session. First trade, only trade. It's all you need, one and done. And that's the backpack trader style of trading. Let's look at our next favorite session to the left, the 9:30 a.m. session. So if you remember today, let's go back a little further even. Markets had halted in the pre-market, right? They were already limit down. So there was no trading, right? That means circuit breakers prevented trading. When the markets opened up, well, what does this all mean? Lots of volatility for one. Gray means stay flat, you see? So the bars are gray, don't do anything. There was a possible short trade, then there was a possible long trade. Both those trades were possible, but conditions changed. The strategy was smart enough to not get triggered in and to stay flat until this trade. And this trade, if you look at the time, oops, let me move this over. This trade is at 9:55, and the mini session, you're looking to take trades from 9:30 to 10:30. So this is 25 minutes after the start of the mini session, and that's the first trade of the session. And it quickly triggers in 1 bar later. You could still get in on this bar as well. So you literally have up to 10 minutes or so to get in on that trade. For sure 5 minutes, and then however long it was up here at this entry. So plenty of time to execute the trade. It does hit this immediate target for scalping. By the way, that immediate target, that's good for 7.5 points, right? If you want to scalp out 7.5 points. But going to the dynamic targets obviously is going to be more profitable in the end. We'll talk about how to use this special target during the boot camp. But notice how the stop is perfectly placed. Now remember, the stop moves down once the bar closes. So this is a very interesting type of stop. There's several stop tools inside of the indicators, which I will be teaching. But look at how it hit target 2. I mean, does it get more perfect than that? It hit it right on the nail. You'd have to check your fill even and make sure. You might have to mark it out really fast with the ES. But I mean, those are 2 very handsome targets, 22 points and 34 points. Remember, $50 a point. And then it stops out. So the 9:30 session, also one and done. And again, you could put this on a micro lot, divide it by 10, and it becomes an affordable trade. Let's look at the prior session that happened the day before. So just going back, you can see no trading. This is in the evening time. So this is in the afternoon after the markets had closed the prior day and reopened on Globex. And we're looking for the 1800 time frame, which is here. And this is right at 6 p.m. Chicago time, but it closed down. Okay, and that's below the entry. It did come up again, but didn't quite hit the entry. So even though this was a winning trade and a perfect target as well, it would not have been filled because it just never came back to the entry, and we're not going to chase trades. So now we're waiting for the first setup, and that comes at 6:30 right here. You get the setup, then 10 minutes later it triggers in. 15 minutes later you can still take the trade. And you probably have time even 20 minutes later to get the trade, or at least sometime after 15 minutes later. And then it zooms down and hits targets 1, targets 2, targets 3. And in one trade is one and done. Now this is one of the mini sessions I'm very excited about because it happens in the early evening or late afternoon, depending on where you're located. And that's going to help a lot of people who work during the daytime and want to trade in the evening or late afternoon. So another one and done. Now I'm just showing you what's happened over the last few days, and notice that each trade has adjusted to market conditions. This is a different size trade than the other trades I showed you, and look how accurate target 3 is before flipping over and going the other direction. This trade plan has hit its goals and it's done its job and it's finished. I don't need to trade anymore. And the whole idea of making money as a trader, the Backpacktrader style, is to obtain freedom for yourself. That means trading less. That means hitting your goals efficiently. So this trade hits the goals and we're done for the session. One trade, Backpacktrader style. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Let's go back. Let's keep looking. So there was another session, if you remember, the 2 p.m. session that starts at 1400. Let's see. So we've got some trading in here, and right in here is 1400. So you can take this trade, right? And it does trigger in on this bar, and then on the very next bar, it comes down and it hits a big target 1 for 27 points, and then comes up and stops out. And that's frankly all you need. You're one and done. Again, we're going to stick with the trade plan goals. Remember, micro lots, divide by 10, and all of a sudden a $28.50 risk, or a 28.5 point risk instead of $50 a point, right? $1,400 risk is only $140 risk, basically. 10 times lower. You see, totally tradable. A nice trade to the left, but again, during a time that we typically are not interested in trading. Let's go back and see what happens earlier. This is our 11 a.m. session, but this is at 11:30. There may have been an earlier trade, and there was. So the 11 a.m. trade actually took place here. This is 11, triggers in, zooms up and hits all the targets. Again, look how perfect the targets are. Now you might be confused and say, well, Spotlight Power Trader sure looks a lot like it. That strategy is very accurate targets as well. And that's true. Spotlight Power Trader has been doing amazing through all this, but this is not Spotlight Power Trader. This is a completely different strategy. Spotlight Power Trader does not use this concept. We're using these momentum lines. Green means up, red means down, gray means flat. That's the Spotlight technology shining a spotlight on these great trades. But the actual strategy is completely different. And again, accurate targets coming down, right? Look at target 3 before it comes up and stops. Even the trade that we wouldn't be interested in, you can see it's a bigger trade. Look how accurate. This is what we need. This is the kind of trading we want to do. Now the trick is to hang on to our money when we make it and just keep repeating it over and over again, growing your account session after session. Let's just look at a little bit more. We'll go back and see what happened during the 9:30 session yesterday. And we'll just click forward this time and see. So there's another trade plan that begins at 8:45. And there was a setup right here at 8:45. And it triggers in on the next bar. This isn't my favorite time to trade. It's a little too volatile for me. It's only a 15-minute window, and then the next trade plan starts at 9:30. All right, so again, I'm going to teach this stuff, but you could see how it hit a perfect target 1. I mean, that's kind of nice that you can get into the market, and then, you know, a few bars later, you're out, and that's, of course, a 23-point trade. Don't get caught up on these numbers. Remember, this is adjusting to market conditions, and under normal circumstances, this would have been a much more reasonable size, but we do have the ability of trading micros. I cannot emphasize that enough. So let's see what happens during the 9:30 session. So here we are, and this is 9:30 right in here, and you might say, well, why is the bar gray? Okay, well, it's flat, and we'll explain why, but basically there's no trade. We're still waiting. We're teaching this, of course, in greater detail during the boot camp, but we're still waiting for the first trade, and okay, there's a move going higher. There's a reason why that this didn't happen. It almost caught it here, but it didn't. Basically, it ends flat. So some of you are asking, well, how often are there trades? And my answer to that is at least every day you're going to have trades. And the mini sessions are going to have trades on most days. But every now and then, there's going to be a time where there just is not a setup. Maybe it happens too early. Maybe for whatever reason it stays flat. and you don't get a trade. So the 9:30 session yesterday didn't even have a trade. So guess what? You got the 11 a.m. session to look forward to, and that one did just great. All right, so I had intended to keep this video short. I hope you enjoyed it. This gives you a better look and view, and you can see how the Catapult ES is working and what to expect. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy. This is TJ with the Backpack Trader. See you next time.